So you actually started your career with Biotech, jumped into programming a bit, right? And then you jumped into designing. How did that happen? What was the reason? What was the motivation behind that?
Being a self-taught designer, you know that it is very hard to learn self-taught. And I'm not one of those people who have this very high ego and who feel proud in saying I'm a self-taught designer.
What does it take to be a self-taught designer, other than the curiosity, other than the zeal to learn?
Because there was nobody to give you a bigger curriculum so that you could see, this is what I'm supposed to know, but I only know this. That's why the curse of being a self-taught designer is very early on, you're like, हाँ मेरे को सब आता है.
Do you miss at any point, at any stage, Biotech कर लिया होता तो better होता, या design के अलावा कुछ और कर लिया होता?
I'm a very outdoorsy person, and biotechnology people have to spend a lot of time in labs. I never really left programming, even during the first 5.5 years of my career. Coded the front end of every web design that I made. Call my key skill as a design, and I would like to call myself as a designer.
Why do you think that these kind of link-only creators, or there's a kind of saturation in the industry because of these creators?
A new source of information to become a designer. They need guidance, they need a path forward, they need somebody to mentor them. When you see a link sharing wala post, right? Somebody came and they're like, oh, this link will change your life.
Bringing that context in, how do you kind of work on the inclusivity of your team members?
I know UX research, but I know also some person who is actually better at UX research than me.
Welcome to Journeys Unmapped, where we go deeper into the career journeys of our guests and try to understand how did they achieve the pinnacle of their success. So today's guest is someone very special to me, someone who's not just creating digital experiences, but also challenging the way how we think about design and creativity. He's a design systems expert, a thought leader, and someone who's not afraid in calling out for the bad practices of the industry. Please welcome Rajat Patel. So, welcome Rajat. I'm very curious to know about that story of coming from Biotech from NIT Durgapur to now leading the team at Zepto. What created that shift and how did you landed this job?
Thank you so much, Sachin, for having me. I'm really, really delighted to be here. So the journey from NIT Durgapur to actually Zepto has taken a lot of twists and turns. When I actually joined college, I joined there as a biotechnology graduate, but I wasn't even sure if I actually wanted to do biotechnology. It was more of a run and gun decision that I took, and I was like, "ठीक है, चलो, we'll see how it goes." Now, the moment I enter college, what happens is I entered a good enough college. I would say it was actually a really good college, and I see people getting those multi-crore packages. That was the switch. When you see people getting multi-crore packages and you're like, hey, who are these people getting these packages? The first thing that you get to know is that these are CS IT graduates, right? Now, because I was a biotechnology graduate, like almost naturally inquired, what is the average salary that biotechnology people are getting? That usually was between 3 to 5 LPA. Now, that was the first trigger in my head, if this is the future, then I don't need to work 3 to 4 years to actually land up a 3 to 5 LPA job, right? And that's when I started learning programming on my own. And somehow, even when I entered college, I had this thing in my head that I liked software engineering a lot, but it's just that because it was so common these days to be a software developer, I did not want to be one. And I was still looking for something different that I could do. Now, in the college, things went pretty normal for the first 2 years. I did some competitive programming, tried learning a lot of programming languages also. And somehow it was still not clicking for me, to be honest. Some of my friends got really good at programming. I was not there. And then I was like, hey, is this it for me, right? Am I going to end up in that same job that I decided that I wouldn't land up? Now, somehow, while doing some research online, I found this thing called work from home internships. And this was like 2014, late, early 2015. I found these two websites, Internshala and one more intern website. I go there and I search for work from home internships because a senior of mine told me you can actually earn some good enough pocket money by doing these things. Now, in that long list of work from home internships, the only two things that I found relatable were content writing and then graphic design. Now, content writing, I found it relatable because I had decent enough English. Graphic design because I had downloaded this crack version of Photoshop and I had started learning. Then I was like, and I read this in the JD that, oh, you need to know Adobe Photoshop and you need to know Adobe Illustrator. And I also know that some people in my college who worked in this college communities, they were designing posters and all for college fests in the Photoshop and Illustrator. So I'm like, yeah, I also have this tool, right? What if I do some learning in this and I might be able to earn? And the stipends used to be really great. Even in 2014 end, the stipends would range from like 5,000 to 15,000. And I was like, if I can make that much money while being in college, my life is sorted. I can do endless partying, I can do endless trips, etc., right? That was initially my motivation. I was like, okay, I'll learn this thing, I'll get some pocket money from here. And because also I had very low pocket money, my parents knew that if they gave me money, I will end up spending all of it. So they did not. So I had to earn it. Now I'm learning Illustrator and all. I somehow, by hook and crook, I land up one internship in one company, and I'm not good at it, to be honest, because I had just learned the tool. I did not know any design fundamentals, any design principles. I was barely able to do things. But every time I would talk to that guy, I would ask him a lot of questions about the company he's working, what is their business model, etc., etc. Because this used to be a very common theme in our core friends discussion. We were a group of problem solvers. We used to literally discuss, okay, oh, can we make this better? Can we make that better? Very randomly. So problem solving came very naturally to me. Now, that mentor, he tells me that there is this field called UI UX design, where you can be a professional problem solver. This is not the term he used, but his summary was, if you like doing this and you know a little bit of design also, if you get better at these things, you can actually combine all of them and you can become a UI UX designer. And there you will get to do this thing even more. Because I was not at all good at designing posters, but I could think in terms of, oh, there should be an app for this, there should be a website for this. That I owe my career to that guy for like to introducing me to this field. Otherwise, I would not have discovered this at all. I would have ended like in the end, I would have gone back to coding and maybe landed somewhere in design. So yeah, initially that was the trigger. Now, again, being a self-taught designer, and this is 2014-15, so the YouTube, which was our main source of learning, that used to look very different from how it looks today, right?
It does.
Today you can search for one thing, you'll get 1,000 videos. And that time you would search for 1,000 things and you'll find one good video that would teach you something. Abhi, like I'm there, somehow I'm doing those, I kept on doing those graphic design internships, and then I kept on reading also. There were a few good resources that I found at the time, a few ebooks I downloaded from anywhere possible, and I started learning. And then my college ends. I only have this Infosys mass placement wala job to show my parents that I'm not getting out of college unemployed. कुछ तो job है मेरे पास में. वो करके मैं college से बाहर आ गया. And I literally did not have anything to go. And because I had decided कि Infosys तो नहीं जाना है. अभी I'm sitting at like one friend's place in Gurgaon and I'm deciding कि क्या करते हैं. And he's like कि भाई, if you have done something, थोड़ा और effort मार लो. Then I was like कि ठीक है, एक month का और time ले लेते हैं, थोड़ा सीखते हैं and थोड़ा और जगह पे apply करते हैं. I kept on doing that for 1 month. Thankfully, in Delhi, Kailash Colony, one startup saw something in me and they were like, "ठीक है, you come, we'll give you an internship." And I went there, I worked there for 4 months. I got decently good at my skills. And by that time, I had become confident that, yeah, okay, now I understand this field. I have some professional touch also. I know, oh, this is how things happen in the real world, because things were changing from how I used to design things in college and how now I'm designing things in a company, in a startup in Delhi. And I think during this 1.5 year, I think I pretty much figured out that, yeah, okay, this is the field. And this is 2016 when UI UX design had started to pick up as a field. Like if you went to LinkedIn, if you went to Naukri.com and you search for any of the job openings at any level, you'll find something. UI UX designer, senior designer, you would find a lot of these openings. Then I realized, okay, maybe this is that different thing that I wanted to do in college. This is that thing. And then I think it was October 2016 when I decided कि अभी full on all in जाना है इस पे. Yeah, that probably marked the beginning of Rajat Patel as a professional designer.
It seems you have been a builder throughout your life. So you actually started your career with biotech, jumped into programming a bit, right? And then you jumped into designing. Help me understand one more part of your journey, which I read about, was the Molecule Design Academy you started.
Yeah, yeah.
How did that happen? What was the reason? What was the motivation behind that?
So Molecule happened pretty late in my career. I think by the time I was 5.5 years, almost 6 years into my career. Being a self-taught designer, you know that it is very hard to learn self-taught. Okay? And I'm not one of those people who have this very high ego and who feel proud in saying I'm a self-taught designer. Okay? Why? Because I've seen people who have come from design colleges and I know that there is a difference. They have a much bigger base in terms of what they know about design as compared to a self-taught designer who is basically YouTube and Udemy taught. Okay? And I have this analogy which I called like an inverted T-shaped designer and a pyramid-shaped designer. People who are self-taught, they're like inverted T-shaped. Base में they have very few skills, and then there is one skill that they have a lot, right? And these people are like assassins. They know how to do one thing, right? And that's all they can do. While these pyramid shaped designers, right? People who are self taught, people who spend 3-4 years in a college to learn things, they have a larger base. And their skills don't just converge into something. They have a lot of skills at every level, which actually allows them to have a bigger overall set of skills which they can use as a professional to do multiple things, right? They can be a strategist, they can be some director, they can be some manager, they can be an executioner also, because I feel it every day. मुझे UI UX डिजाइन के अलावा कुछ नहीं आता है, ठीक है? While if you go to any graduate from NIFT, NID, IID, you'll see every designer, and again this is one of my theory, every designer has two of these skills. They're either good at drawing or good at photography, and it is very hard for you to find a designer who is not good at any of these things. मुझे नहीं आता दोनों में से कुछ. I am not good at any of these things. That's why I know that I'm just an assassin, right? I know one skill and I can do it. Now, by the time I was in 5th year of my career, I had started to mentor people occasionally. People would reach out to me on LinkedIn. They would ask me questions, and I would kind of see my reflection in them. I know that I had the exact same question 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? Then I knew that, okay, field has a lot of demand, but there is not enough supply of free material, but there's enough people who want to become a designer by only consuming this free material. Now I know that if I just let this happen, people will end up entering the industry being a half-baked designer. I decided that okay, I'll try to do something, and I made one LinkedIn page, and through that page I started to officially mentor people. Because I had learned a lot of things the hard way. I knew okay, if this guy is asking me this question, if this girl is asking me this question, it's pretty much obvious that they would not know these three things also, which are the surrounding matter of this. And while I was mentoring them, I would often try to answer those questions. Now, from there, I started building one curriculum. I know, okay, this is available on the online, but this is being used as a professional. Now, if I combine these things, then I can build some sort of a curriculum that I can teach to people during a course of 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. And it probably took me like 1.5 years of just constantly free mentoring. I was never taking money from people. Free mentoring to actually build a good enough curriculum that I was like, okay, if I take 4 months to teach people this entire curriculum, they will end up entering the industry with a more stronger hold than they would have if they were just a self-taught designer. So धीरे धीरे करते करते, yeah, that's how I ended up making it. I was actually building a dream curriculum that I would have liked to have when I was starting out as a designer, and I think it's actually still in the works. I wouldn't say that I have been able to perfect the curriculum, but I pretty much can turn a self-taught designer into a more educated designer, not compared to a designer from a design college, but they would be much better off.
Lovely. That's fascinating. Since we've talked about a lot in terms of self-taught designers, I've heard this term a couple of times, that I'm a self-taught designer. What does it take to be a self-taught designer, other than the curiosity, other than the zeal to learn?
I think the question is not that. The question shouldn't be what does it take to be a self-taught designer? What does it take It should be, what does it take a self-taught designer to be a design professional? Because you
Correct.
could learn Figma and you could start calling yourself a designer. You could learn any design tool and you can start calling yourself a designer, right? That's the curse of being self-taught. You assume this very early that you know enough, right? Because there was nobody to give you a bigger curriculum so that you could see, oh, this is what I'm supposed to know, but I only know this. That's why the curse of being a self-taught designer is very early on, you're like, हाँ, मेरे को सब आता है. But it becomes really hard for you to become a full-time design professional after it. And because of all of the learning gaps that you have. Now, personally, 2024 onwards, I have stopped recommending people to aim to become a self-taught designer. Like, I would have told this to at least 100 people, कि if you're younger, let's say if you're 24 years or younger, don't try to become a self-taught designer. And the reason is, during a 10-year course, 10-year trajectory, you will end up having a much slower growth as compared to a designer from a bigger design college. If a self-taught designer wants to be successful, the first thing that they need to prepare for themselves is a good enough curriculum. If you don't know what all you need to know to become an industry professional, you will actually never be one. You will know 7 things out of 10 and you'll miss those 3 things, and then as a professional, you'll suddenly need one of those things. People will be expecting you to have it and then you'll be embarrassed. And plus, in the last 3 years, probably 3 to 4 years, 2020 to 2024, there's been a huge supply of designers, right? Designers are coming from a lot of design boot camps. Designers are coming from a lot of design degrees also. So, abhi, the supply is so much that if the industry wants, they can actually fill all of their requirements from just this trained supply. Now, imagine you being a self-taught designer. What you had was YouTube. What this person had from a boot camp was at least one core mentor who gave them the curriculum, and then a few TAs also, right? This person would have connected them to a few design professionals also. You had YouTube. This person, even though they did a 4 to 6 months boot camp, would have more design awareness than you. Now compare this again to somebody who is doing a 4-year BDES program for NIFT, NID, IIT. Now you again, YouTube, this person had an entire faculty. They had a library, they had a lot of labs, right? They had workshops. They had hundreds of designers around them who were from different disciplines. Just imagine the amount of exposure that this person would have had. Yes, you might have a very good eye for aesthetics, okay? But again, one skill compared to a long exposure, in fact, a wide exposure over a long period of time. You will never be able to beat it unless you're some genius like Picasso, Mozart. You will not be able to beat these people, right?
True that.
You might be able to land one good job, do some good work there, and then immediately able to land one more better job. Okay? But this person, right? This person has a pedigree. At every stage of their career, they will not just have knowledge, they will also have people to support them. And
I think that
why,
is what structured learning is all about.
Yeah. The core here is structured learning. So build your curriculum first and then decide, okay, now the next step will be just find the best possible resources to actually give you that information about that structured curriculum. And this is I have never seen a self-taught designer who actually had a documented curriculum. All of their curriculum is in their head.
That is true.
Right? And that is why they struggle. When you don't know where you need to go, how will you go? Right? It's like having a compass for navigating the world.
That is true.
Yeah.
So your design journey has been quite fascinating so far. I'm a little curious to kind of end this point. Do you miss at any point, at any stage, कि BTech कर लिया होता या Biotech कर लिया होता तो better होता या design के अलावा कुछ और कर लिया होता? Do you feel that?
No, not at all. In fact, I'm very happy that I came here. I know for a fact that I would not have been a very good biotechnology designer. I'm a very outdoorsy person, and biotechnology people have to spend a lot of time in labs. You have to do long experiments. You're wearing the coat, goggles, right? You're doing things in your lab. You have to spend a lot of time indoors. Just for that one reason, I know that I wouldn't be able to be a good scientist. And as per computer science, I never really left programming. Even during the first 5.5 years of my career, I pretty much coded the front end of every web design that I made. Whether it was a marketing website or it was a product, I pretty much coded every damn thing. So programming has been with me all the time, and it has actually helped me become a good designer also. But I would still call my key skill as a design, and I would like to call myself as a designer. Maybe a better word today will be a builder, but yeah, design. I feel truly designer as in my DNA.
Now, that brings me to the next segment of my discussion, which is about your recent LinkedIn
Yeah.
posts. I've been doing a lot of research about you, and I stumbled upon a couple of LinkedIn posts that you have shared very recently. One of which kind of stuck with me was the link only creators. One, I want to understand what do you mean by that? And two, why do you think that these kind of link only creators or there's a kind of saturation in the industry because of these creators?
Today we are living in the age of abundance. Now, when I started design, we had lack of information, right? We wanted to find something online, we wanted to learn something online, and we would not really find easy, good resources for it. Today, the most common question that I get from students on my LinkedIn and Instagram is that we want to become a self-taught designer, but there is too much information, too many people saying too many different things, and we don't know who to listen to. Now, combine this with these link sharing creators. A designer does not need a new source of information to become a designer, right? They need guidance, they need a path forward, they need somebody to mentor them. But these people who constantly keep feeding new designers with one link to find new typefaces, one link to find new color palettes, right? Get illustrations from here, get this from here. They're actually adding fuel to the fire. This way, students are getting even more confused constantly. And to be honest, when you see a link sharing wala post, right? Somebody came and they're like, oh, this link will change your life. You immediately feel that FOMO, right? You save it. You feel very impressed. Oh, this person is sharing really good resources. Okay, I'll follow this. Now that person gets motivated. Oh, my link sharing post does really well. Now they'll find even more links. Why? Because this content is actually doing good for them. It's not that they know that, oh, if I give people 100 links, they will become a designer. The problem I have is this, right? Link sharing posts, just out of FOMO, they do so well that creators keep on sharing links, they keep on getting engaged, and students keep on filling their, save, Instagram pe save karte rehte hain and LinkedIn pe bhi save karte rehte hain. But to be honest, if you follow this routine for 1 week, in 1 week you will end up saving hundreds of links. And at the end of the week, you will just be so exhausted and drained by the amount of information that you've saved, you'll not know again where to begin with. Which means 1 week of constant collection of resources, hoarding information, when there was already excess of information, you again went back to zero. And now you're even more stressed because you're like, अब तो मेरे पास में links भी अच्छे अच्छे लेकिन कोई ये नहीं बता रहा ना कि इनका करना क्या है. That is the problem I have. Nobody wants to spend time to actually answer students' questions. I'm telling you this, all of these link sharing creators, right? And a lot of popular creators have also done this. And I'm not really a fan of this. I feel like good resource, you should share. But there should be a limit to good resource. It's not like you can keep on sharing 100, 200 links, build your career out of it, but there is no good for the students in it. And mentorship takes time, right? None of these link sharing creators are actually answering students' questions in their DM. None of these mentors are actually getting on calls with students to actually clear their doubts. Why? Because that takes time, plus there is nothing in it for them. By sharing links, you outsource the responsibility, right? Okay, I have given you the best information, now it is your responsibility. Bro, the student was already clueless and you have done nothing good for them. And that's the problem I have with these people.
In fact, this is something I also do a lot. I save a lot of such links, but at the end of the day, I have enough links, but what to do with it?
Yeah.
Despite me being a mentor myself, I sometimes feel that, great, what should I do with that?
Yeah.
Lovely. So this brings me another question, is that how someone who's completely new into the system, who's completely new into this field, to kind of clear the noise and learn or pick the ones that are really important?
So this question actually can be answered in tiers. Okay, let's imagine you're not a professional designer yet. You're only learning. Yeah? You haven't even had your first internship yet. There'll be a different answer for them. Then people who are, let's say, between 1 to 3 years of experience, and then people who are 3 years or above. If you're literally an entry-level designer or just learning design, I would say rather than collecting and hoarding 10 links, go to Udemy and find one course that is the most sold course and just stick to it. Just stick to it. Don't again keep on referring here and there, keep on following randomly people here and there. No. Find one course, stick to it, and finish it end to end. Why? Because the thing is that it will be very hard for you to combine the information and perspectives of 10 different designers for 10 different topics than one designer for 10 different topics. Now, that designer might not be able to teach you every topic really well, but out of that 20-hour course where they're covering 20 topics, they will be able to teach you 4 or 5 topics really well, which are their core strengths. Now you can be sure that, okay, there are these 4 or 5 things that you've learned from an expert. Now, once you have finished this, then you can decide, oh, this module, I didn't like it. This module, I didn't like it. Now find alternative resources to that instead of again constantly hoarding information. So for beginner designers, find one source. It can be a Udemy course. I think Udemy courses are very well documented. You can go to other platforms like Domestika, EDX. But again, don't collect too many resources as a beginner. Now, because right now as a beginner, your problem is information problem and reliable information problem. Now let's say you do this for 3 months, you get an internship, you become a decent enough designer. Now, the first thing that you need to do is see wherever you're working right now, are you getting good quality projects or not? Now, if you're not getting good quality projects, you'll be unsatisfied as a professional, right? And the quality of your portfolio is going to depend on it. Instead of relying on that company, right? What do? Now you start doing side projects. And now only find information that is directly going to help you build that side project. So now again, you're not doing random learning now. As a professional, you need to know, okay, this is what I'm good at, right? This is the thing that my company is giving me project for, which means I'll anyway have this. But this I'm not getting. Now let me do a side project for this. And now let me do curated learning, specific learning for this particular thing. Because again, as a professional, you'll have very limited time and energy. A lot of your time and energy will be going to your full-time job. Now you cannot just sit on YouTube and watch 3 hours of random tutorials. And this way, once you're doing specific learning, you can actually implement it directly to your workplace, which will again make you a better professional. Now, this is applicable for people between 0 to 3 years. Why? Because I do know even today there are a lot of self-taught designers and they will have learning gaps, and it is also impacting their career. So 1 to 3 people do side projects and learn things. Now, after 3, I think after 3, the success of your career depends on 2 things. First is, have you had a good mentor yet who was actually interested in making sure you grow? First. Second, are you surrounded by people who are better than you or not? These 2 things are mandatory for people who have more than 3 years of experience. Get in touch with people who have crossed the path and are already better than you. Do that learning. And second, find people who actually are interested in your progress, who will give you their time. And even if you need to pay for those people's time, pay for it, because that ROI is going to be tenfold. So for people above 3 years, and by the way, when I say people above 3 years, I'm assuming that you've had enough time to perfect the core design skills, right? If you still have knowledge gaps, then just consider yourself between 1 to 3 and still do side projects. But after 3, if you do think that, yeah, okay, I know how this product design lifecycle works, I know how these different components work, I am a professional, then start working more on networking and getting mentorship.
That is solid advice. Trust me, because this is exactly what I have gone through in my journey of being a mentor. So this brings me to the other part of our question, which is about the elitism in the so-called design hierarchy, where you talk about design researcher, UX, UI, wherein least the students would know or the freshers would know about that every single contribution is there.
Yeah.
Right? One, I want to know from you, what made you or kind of inspired you to write about that? And 2, what are your elaborated thoughts on that?
When you're in the industry for 10 years, you've seen everything, right? You know that people see a certain kind of person a certain way. And the most elitist behavior I have seen is in UX designers and UX researchers. Okay? There is heavy. And then at the bottom of the funnel, so there is like UX designers and researchers, and peer interaction designers and prototyping experts, etc. And then for somehow design systems designers, and then UI designers, and then graphic designers. Right? This is the unspoken hierarchy in the design world, at least in the digital product design world. Okay? Nobody talks about it, everybody knows it. Because it is also reflected in the salaries also of people. Now, one of the recent instances happened with me, and that kind of inspired me to write that post is in my previous organization, I was trying to make switch between, I was a design systems lead there, and I wanted to go from design systems to product. Now, a lot of the leadership was okay with it, right? They were completely supportive, so like nothing against them, but I actually felt it in my colleagues when I told them that, okay, I want to go from a lead design systems designer to a lead product designer, a lot of those faces like turned, like their eyes went open. They were like, Acha, you will become a lead product designer. You know product design. And I had to kind of justify it to a few of them that, okay, I have 8.5 years of work ex. For the first 5.5 years, I was a product designer only. Then for the last 3 years, I've been doing design systems. Does not mean I've forgotten everything that I knew. Plus, I have done a hell lot of mentorship of people. I have literally helped people, made hundreds of case studies. I have reviewed hundreds of portfolios. I might have actually done more design work than you, but just because you're in this context, let's say you're already there where I want to be. You feel entitled to have this notion about me that, yeah, okay, a design systems designer may not be as good of a product designer, as me. And then I discussed it with a lot of people, and I got the same feedback about UI designers also. That a lot of UI designers, because see, in the organizations, work happens like this. Okay, product manager takes a lot of core decisions. Those decisions are passed on to product designers or UX designers. They do the core flow, wireframing, everything. And then if they get stuck somewhere, which is something purely related to visuals, that is passed down to UI designers or visual designers. And then when a UI designer constantly sees this hierarchy, right, this invisible hierarchy, they also kind of feel inspired to be there. And they're like, okay, and because they also know that there's more money there, by the way. It is true that there is more money for UX designers. They also want to be there, and they try to do the similar switch in their organizations. And I know people, from my recent experience also, who have tried to make the switch, and it's been very hard for them. Yes, I can understand that, okay, maybe if somebody was exposed to a certain situation, certain kind of work, they would have more expertise in that work, and they may not be as good at this thing. But if they want to do it, they should be allowed to do it, and they should not be stereotyped that, yeah, okay, you are already good at this. Because at 5, 6, 7 years of experience, nobody is settled anywhere. We all have a long career to go, and during that course, we can actually change anything to anywhere. Right? And it is this elitist behavior that people who are at that position already, and if you from a slightly tangential career would want to go there, and they'll look at you as if you're talking about something entirely different. So it's not just me, I have seen it in people. It's just that these things are thought to be as taboo, and people feel scared to talk about it, which I don't. That's why I was like, hey, I will address it. And there was not too much engagement in that post, but I got a lot of DMs because of that post. People were like, even I was scared that if I write it, my manager will see me or my senior will see me. Okay? But people reached out to me, and they were like, yeah, this is happening with me also.
That is so true. In fact, what I feel is that everyone wants to be the top leader, but most of them forget about the roles all the other players of the team are actually contributing to the larger play of things.
Yeah.
So bringing that context in, how do you kind of work on the inclusivity of your team members in a larger project?
Inclusivity has to be there, but then there are other factors also in play. First thing is that if I have a team of 5 people in an organization, we are part of an organization, and an organization is a money-making machine. Let's be very clear on it. Which means we have all assembled there to first make money for the organization. That is why when we are delivering a project, our priority should be, are we doing justice by the role that we've been assigned or not? Okay? First thing that. Now, whenever we are in a project, if we have certain deadline, the goal would be to meet that deadline. Okay? Not so that you can get a project that you can build, that helps you build your portfolio. But in all the other non-critical scenarios, right, people should be explored, and I have always encouraged people to explore. So let's say I know UX research, but I know also some person who is actually better at UX research than me, right? I keep on connecting people to this person. I know prototyping, but I also know people who are better at prototyping than me. If somebody tells me that, yeah, okay, I want to learn this tool, Rive or Protopy, I know 3 people who have already done it. I'll connect those people to them and I'll be like, isse baat karo. This guy has done it. I never even take it on me कि हाँ मेरे को ही सब कुछ आता है and I'll teach you everything. My thing is, I'm also exploring, I'm also connecting to people for certain different skill sets, and so should you. And if I know somebody, my thing is this: ये course, buy this course. Simple. I bought this course, I learned from this, immediately links in, ये लो, buy this course. If there is a course that I already have in my account, I'll be like, ये लो मेरा login details, do this. Then it is their responsibility to come back to me with certain outcome. I will only encourage. I do not believe in pushing people. I only believe in staying ahead and then helping them bring to me. I'll never push you from the back कि हाँ नहीं तू जा नहीं मैं आगे खड़ा हूँ तेरे को आना है I'll hold your hand and I'll let you come to because self motivation is important because even when you talk about these topics right कि a lot of people will relate to it and be like कि हाँ ये तो मेरे साथ भी हुआ है but only a certain percent of them will actually take initiatives to change their scenarios. They'll keep on criticizing the system but not actually do something about it. That's why I'm like, hey, तुझे करना है कर, I'll empower you. And once you come back with certain output, then I'll tell you, then I'll evaluate you and I'll tell you this is where you are. Have you progressed? Yes. Now that you have progressed, now maybe you can actually help me do this thing also.
Lovely. I think that's very solid advice. One more post that I kind of want to talk about is the post where you talked about the reverse engineering piece, like how you need to develop problem solving by getting the mindset into the reverse engineering mode.
Yeah.
I want you to a little elaborate on that.
So again, this comes from me teaching to all of my students. When a lot of the times when my students paid me money and they started attending my classes, they became heavily reliant on me because they thought that yeah, okay, now that they have registered for the 4 or 5 months boot camp that I was running, they will suddenly start creating products like Airbnb, Twitter, Spotify. And I had to remind them, those products have taken hundreds of designers 10-15 years to reach here, right? The only thing that you can do to make things like Spotify today is just break it down into smaller technical pieces and replicate. You may not be able to understand the exact product philosophy or design philosophy, but if you're good at reverse engineering, at least you'll be able to create a similar UI. You don't have to exactly replicate it. Even if you're replicating it to an 80% polished level, your skills or your output will be actually much better off from where it was. So this actually came from me telling students how to get immediately better. There's one quote I read somewhere, and that is, if I have been able to look any further, it is only by standing on the shoulders of the giants. Right? So you find somebody really good, you imitate them, and then you'll immediately get much better from where you were. That is usually the starting point. Plus, so I also have this theory where I think every creative field has this 3 levels. Every creative field, like writing, singing, dancing, designing, everything. The first level is learning the basics, right? So I called this the explore phase. The second level is experiment phase. Because now that you have gone through the explore phase, you kind of understand, you're kind of able to break down things of other people and see how this is how they did it. So second phase is experiment phase. Now, this phase is where a lot of special learning happens. Okay? You start reverse engineering people's work and then you start mix and matching and then you start getting better as a creator. And then the third stage is expression stage, right? Where you have done enough experimentation that when you combine it with your life experiences, now you have something new to show, right? And you already have the technical base for it. And now this expression stage is where everybody wants to be, because this is where every artist is, right? But these 2 phases is what people forget. And that is why learning phase, I encourage them to do, right? So I'm there, I'll do this explore phase, I'll teach you the basics. Experiment phase is what you are supposed to do, and this is the reverse engineering phase, right? And as a resultant of this, only a few selected people who do this phase really well will be able to reach this expression phase where they are able to kind of express themselves as an artist. And this journey, nobody can actually escape this journey. You have to follow this. Yes, some people do it in 3 years. Some people do it in, some gifted people might be able to do it in 6 months also. And somebody gets stuck, some people get stuck on this experiment stage throughout their lives. The day I understood this, I started teaching it to everybody, and I'm like, no matter where you are, no matter how much experience you have, if you're a creative or you're in the creative phase, first put yourself in any of these 3 tiers. Or you might be in all of these 3 tiers a little bit. You might be 60% in this learning phase, 30% in this, but you're only 10% in the expression phase. Now you know, okay, where am I lacking? If I'm not able to express myself as a creator, I might have to do more experimentation. So, and that solves a lot of things. So that post is basically just the beginning. There's a lot more coming on this philosophy.
Lovely. In fact, I think that's why a lot of fighters, maybe boxing fighters or any other, they also kind of review the tapes of their opponents quite often to understand what actually kind of clicked. I want to ask you one thing. If you would like to share a story about your own reverse engineering sets of things, like how did you reverse engineer one of your projects or one of your case studies?
When I became a design systems designer, now the design systems workflow is actually very different from a UX designer workflow. In some ways, we are actually maintaining a few Figma files which have all your styles and components. But the more deeper you go, you realize that, yeah, there's a lot of principles going on there. Now, UX design at least has a lot of resources today. Okay? The design systems is still in that lack of resources phase, which means the only resource I had was a few of the top tier design systems. Material, Atlassian, all of these products have actually made some really good websites and documented everything. And that is why when I was learning design systems, tokenization, how to do proper documentation, how do you actually organize components, etc., that's all I did. I went to material design ka website, I have read the material design 2 ka website at least 5 times, every single page. And then I went to their Figma files of the community. I saw how they build their components and I reverse engineered every single component. And I tried to also understand the logic that they may have had behind this decision. And I did this first for material, then I did this for Atlassian, then I did this for Salesforce ka Lightning design system, then I did this for GitHub design system. I kept on doing it for like 10-20 design system, and at the end of it I started seeing patterns. I was like, okay, yes, this is a common thing that every design system has. Now this pattern is actually a principle. This is another pattern. This becomes principles. So now when you keep on doing this reverse engineering enough, then you start to see these patterns, and those are the key learnings that you were hoping. Now, if you had a mentor, yes, they would have given you these learnings, right? But then you would not have explored this much. And when you explore this much, you end up with a lot of extra learning also. So that's the benefit of doing reverse engineering.
Wonderful. Now, this brings me to the last section of the conversation, and which is the rapid fire round. I will ask you 5 questions, which I've kept again towards the end. Make sure you take no time to think about it. And here we go.
Yeah.
Biggest design trends that you're excited about in 2025?
Extremely high fidelity prototyping with tools like Rive and Play.
One thing designers should stop doing immediately.
Having too much ego that they're really good.
What is your favorite design tool or design hack?
Right now, my favorite tool is Rive because it allows you to do crazy good prototyping, which is almost indistinguishable from a real app.
What is harder, convincing stakeholders or developers?
Convincing stakeholders. Developers are technical, they can be convinced with objective.
If you get a chance to redesign an app or a website, which one that would be?
I would like to redesign Facebook because I think it started from being a social network, but it is not a social network at all. I think the entire social networking ecosystem needs to be redesigned.
So this brings us to the end of our conversation. Before I end, I would request you to give top 3 advice to all those young designers who are either starting up or are they in their early journey of their career.
Okay, and I'm keeping the UI UX designers in mind here. The first thing is that there is no replacement for craft, and because these days there are, in terms of numbers, there are so many designers. Chances are the craft of a lot of them is going to be really good, which means you need to work on craft. And when I say craft, I mean how aesthetic and usable your designs are, how good they look, how good they feel to use. That is the top advice. There is no compliment to this. The second thing is, try to explore creative fields outside design. People come to design and just get stuck, but I think there's a lot more to learn about good design and good products, from architecture, from interior design, from good graphic design, packaging design, etc., etc., and even non-design fields. Like, there's a lot of good things to learn about how products are built from sales people, marketing people, management people. So try to explore outside design as much as possible. And the last thing will be, again, no matter which stage of the career you are, even if you're a 10 12 years of experience and you're some head of design watching me, you find somebody who is better than you, and just bow to them and ask them to tell you something new. Design is going to be a very long career. It is going to be at least a 25, 30, or 40-year journey at the very least. No matter what you know today as a 10, 15 years old WorkX designer, it will become irrelevant in 5 years, especially at the pace things are changing today. So bow your head down, stay humble, and constantly find who are better than you. They could be younger than you, but as long as they have something to teach you, find them and learn from them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Where can people follow you if they want to learn more about you or seek your mentorship?
Yeah, so if you search Rajat Patel on YouTube, Rajat Patel Design Systems, I'll be on YouTube. Rajat Patel Designs is my Instagram handle, and on LinkedIn, I think if you just write Rajat Patel, I might be one of the first few people to show up. So it's pretty much Rajat Patel Designs, or Rajat Patel Design Systems everywhere.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching the video till the end. I hope it added value. Please like, share, and subscribe so that we come to know about your support. And do let me know in the comments below which is the next career you want to explore next.